Planetary Health First, Mars Next. This is an amazing time. Today we are live at VIVE, and we have Haley Schwartz. We got Neil, the co-host, that's going to be driving the discussion. So I'm going to do a mic drop, just passing it. And that's when and Neil's going to do the mic drop because that's why I'm passing it.
No, I'm definitely not mic dropping after a few days of being out at these events. I am just simply not physically coordinated to pull this off well. But I'm psyched to have my old friend Haley here, who's a brilliant lady who does a lot of cool stuff that's actually not typical in the VIVE world. So I will let her do her own introduction. But first, before we get to your cool work, I want to have you talk about your life. And now that you told me about your acting past, you're going to have to get that in here.
Uh-oh. Didn't want to start there. Well, Michael, Neil, thank you both so much for having me. Really excited to be here at VIVE and happy to tell you all about med device commercialization. But on the personal front, so we're in my hometown. We're in LA. And so this is Hollywood, where I grew up. And I did have a small stint as a child actress. And so that's where I got the, ability, I guess, to be able to do an ad hoc video podcast on a dime with you guys.
Exactly.
Hey, we've been rehearsing all day.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. Me too. It's great. But anyways, like I said, thank you so much again for having me, and looking forward to diving in.
Okay, so you talked about acting. Okay, what did you do after you were doing acting? So you did child acting, but that was, not yesterday.
Yep. So from there, fell in love with math and science,
Yep.
Became an engineer, practiced engineering for a very short amount of time in industry. I was at Edwards Life Sciences, held various roles there, clinical, sales, global marketing, and really fell in love with commercialization. So I was there for almost about 9 years,
Yep.
and then started my own consultancy, Catalyze Healthcare, and now I do medical device commercialization, go-to-market strategy with startups all the way up through big box tech companies.
And in between, after Edwards, right, you took a kind of a break, and maybe you can talk about that experience and like getting back into the flow of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So took a nice personal break. I actually had twins. So twin girls, 9 months old now. No harder job in the world than becoming a mom for the first time and twins. So very lucky to have a lot of support at home.
And for those of you, sorry to interrupt for a second,
Yeah.
for those of you who can't see her clearly, it looks like she has no sleep problems whatsoever, which boggles my brain, having had my own 9-month-old. I'm a little confused.
I appreciate that.
I don't know what med tech device solves babies sleeping, but I'm glad you've invented it.
Thank you. Yeah, not sharing that secret, especially since it doesn't exist yet.
Okay, so you took a break. You got 9-year-olds, which is a lot. 9-month-olds, which is a lot to juggle. Now you're back in. Can you tell us? So VIVE tends to have a lot of like software guys and gals, but tends to be very software centric, a little services centric, often less focused on devices or pharma, though obviously a big part of the healthcare ecosystem. Can you talk a little bit about like some of what you're seeing out in the marketplace?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the big reasons that I'm here at VIVE is because there is a little bit less med device, and actually there's less insight into the commercialization process and getting
Yep.
medical devices into hospital systems. So I was fortunate enough to have that experience firsthand, hands-on every single day. And what I really like about VIVE is that we have the right mix here of not only emerging device companies, but also the investors who are kind of saying, hey, if we invest in this technology, what does that commercialization pathway really look like?
Yeah.
And, value analysis committees and capital equipment, what does the competitive landscape look like? All of those pieces that I think we tend to overlook until regulatory clearance is granted. So the idea here is we need to do it earlier, we need to get it kind of at the forefront and as part of the product development process, right? And being able to make more informed decisions up front.
Yeah. So investors. So you just mentioned investors, right? Med devices is like a long cycle to get returned into the marketplace. What do you feel like some folks have the proper appreciation for the length of time that takes and have the right portfolio outlook and structure for that?
So actually, I don't think so. And I think it's true that it is a 12 to 18 month sales cycle, and there really is no way to shortcut that right now. So we need to be able to sort of buckle in, and we need to be able to play the long game to get there. And there's a little bit of a misconception with software, because software can be commercialized so fast. Adoptions have been so quick. Things are skyrocketing, and everything's a hockey stick so fast that with med device, it's not the same. And I think it's being bucketed in the same manner. And no, I don't think that appreciation exists, but I think we're learning it the hard way.
Yeah, gotcha. One of the things is, so I worked with places like Johns Hopkins, which have giant programs to kind of commercialize some of the medical devices and sort of innovations happening out of those places. But I've also seen a lot of smaller health systems and smaller practices try to get in the game. What is the infrastructure they need to be successful? Because it's not just like a new idea, to your point, and you're done, like turn around and sell it.
Yeah, I think what they really need to bridge the gap is between an idea and a business.
Yep.
So they really need to put the commercial process together. They need to understand the regulatory pathway. Those
Yep.
are all not created equal, right? The legal piece, the compliance around it, certainly HIPAA and patient privacy plays into it. So I think they need to understand that this is not a low barrier to entry and that they actually do need to go through the process of putting all of those pieces in place. But once they do, that opens up a lot of doors. So it is definitely a higher barrier to entry. Once you scale it, though, you are sort of...
But is that something an
the world's
individual
oyster.
hospital or health system really has the capacity to do outside of a big academic center?
I think maybe some of them do. To your point, academic medical centers are sort of the starting point, whether it's the accelerator programs or it's the internal incubators. But local community hospitals, they can, if they have the focus. I'm going to say it's case-by-case basis. I wish I had a stronger answer.
No, that's fair. So I also have had the experience of like going over to Israel and meeting people like who are like amazing sort of back of their office entrepreneurs in various ways. But they don't know how to then bridge that kind of device to like the big companies. Like how can they go about trying to figure out if they really even have something, and if they have it, how do they get the attention of sort of the right people?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of innovation in Israel. I'm really proud to see so many companies here out of Israel.
Yep.
And a lot of it is, they need to start, for example, commercialization like me, right? Get in touch with the right experts. If you're in value-based care, there are value-based care experts around, right? You need to find those people who are in the domains. And I think places like VIVE are the right place to start. If you have the vested interest in being here, you're clearly here in order to advance healthcare. Start here and then work your way, out. But again, when it comes to investors and aligning yourself with the right people, you really need to be diligent about that.
Yeah, by the way, I love that advice, which is to say, hey, if you're like isolated and you're trying to innovate, the easiest thing to do is stop being isolated. And it costs money and time, but get out there and start meeting people outside your local community, because that's not necessarily just going to be the ecosystem that works.
Great way to put it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Handoff time.
This has been awesome. We're coming towards the end, wrapping this up, but we were talking earlier about reimagining healthcare, right? And you were beaconing out someone that you'd like to maybe have on next time. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'd love to hear from Missy Krasner.
And so, and what do you think you'd love to be doing a deep dive in? What are you kind of signaling her to reimagine healthcare? What kind of topic would you like to drive down with her?
I think she really understands the payers and product adoption, and I'd like to hear more about her perspective on it.
That's awesome. This has been so great.
Thank you.
So much. So thank you. Thank you so much for coming on today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, and would love to hear from you.
Awesome.